Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Desatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pangangate Girim, Yat Krupa, Tamham Vande, Sri Gurum Dinathanine. Hare Krishna. So today we'll see the third verse of the 13th chapter. So Krishna, after Arjuna asked 6 questions, Krishna has started explaining first about the Kshetra and Kshetrajna, the field of activities and the knower of activities. And in the second verse, he told that one who knows the knower of the activities. No, what was that? Sorry. Is called Kshetrajna. So who is that Kshetrajna? That Krishna will explain in these subsequent verses. So one by one, Krishna will answer the questions. So let us see this verse. Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Chapi chapi mam vidhi.
Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi.
Sarva kshetresu bharata.
Sarva kshetreshu bharata.
Kshetra kshetragnayor yad. Kshetra kshetragnayor jnanam.
Kshetra kshetragyo jnanam.
Yad jnanam matam mama.
Yat jnanam matam mama.
Yat jnanam matam mama. Yeah, please chant.
Kshetragyam chapi mam vidhi. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragya yor jnanam. Yat jnanam matam mama.
Yeah. Kshetra jnanam chapi mam vidhi. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra kshetragyor jnanam. Yattat jnanam matam mama.
Okay, so translation and purport. Shine of Partha, one should understand that I am also the knower in all the bodies, and to understand the body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion, purport. While discussing the subject of body and the knower of the body, the soul and the super soul, we shall find 3 different topics of study: the Lord, living entity, and the matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are 2 souls, the individual soul and the super soul. Because the super soul is plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. I am present in every body as Paramatma or super soul. One who studies the subject matter of field of activity and knower of the field very minutely in terms of this Bhagavad Gita can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the super soul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all various. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all properties possessed by individual citizens. Similarly, one may be proprietor of body individually, but the Supreme Lord is proprietor of all bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and the citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. Anybody wants to read the purport? It's long. If somebody can read. Or otherwise.
The body consists. The Supreme Lord is Rishikesha, which means the controller of the senses. He is the original controller of the senses. Just as the king is the original controller of all the activities of the state, the citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord says, I am also the knower. This means that he is the super knower. The individual soul knows only his particular body. In the Vedic literature, it is stated as follows. Kshetrani hi sharirani bijam chapi shubhashubhe tani veti sayogatma tata kshetragya uchyate. This body is called the Kshetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the owner of the body. Therefore, he is called the knower of all fields. The distinction between the field of activities, the knower of activities, and the supreme knower of activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of, of the individual soul, and the constitution of the super soul is known in terms of Vedic literature as jnana. That is the opinion of Krishna. To understand both the soul and the yet distinct is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activity is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower who dominates or controls nature and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in that different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. This material world, which is the field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity. And above them, both is the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. It is stated in the Vedic language in the Sveteshwara Upanishad 1.12. भोक्ता भोग्यं परित्रं च मत्वा सर्वं प्रोक्तं त्रिविधं Brahman itat. There are three Brahman conceptions. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva individual soul is also Brahman and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. In this chapter, it will be it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible and the other is infallible. One is the superior and the other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the supreme personality of Godhead, who states here very clearly, I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies and there are different owners of the bodies because each individual soul has its individual capacity for lording it over material nature. There are different bodies, but the Supreme also is present in them as a controller. The word is significant for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana. Krishna is a super soul present in each and every a body apart from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that real knowledge is to know that the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer.
Okay, thank you very much. So, maybe this now we see we were reading the Bhakti chapters right till now, and suddenly we go to the Jnana. So there are so many different words, there are so many different concepts, and we have to understand the concepts, and it becomes very theoretical, or what we can say very logical, to understand all the differences and all the terms and then relate all those terms. So here the Krishna is explaining, like yesterday we discussed, this body, our body is actually the field of activities. Like with using this body, we can do certain activities. And there is also, maybe we all have two hands, legs, ears, everything. The senses as such are same to everyone. But how those senses are used by the soul in that body is different. So I may use my hands differently. Somebody else will use their hands differently and for different purpose. I will use for a different purpose. So there is difference. Like only the senses does not complete the understanding of this field of activities. There is something more, right, that controls these senses. So we think that okay, mind controls, but yeah, mind is the order giver, because mind is also a sense. Mind is the king of the senses. But above mind, there is something. Krishna told that intelligence is there. And above the intelligence is the soul. And the soul, behind the soul is super soul. So this is the explanation given by Krishna, that this is how the senses and the relation to the soul. So how the senses will be used, of course the connection is the mind, but the soul, who is the proprietor, or what we say kshetragya of the body, he has the with the soul comes the desires, right, from the previous life or previous karma, and from that the mind and intelligence and ego, we start doing the activities. So when the control is from the soul, then we can overcome the desires. But if the control is from the senses, then actually soul does not come into picture much. Soul just has to suffer, because all the activities are being carried out by the senses, mind, and intelligence. No control from top. So by this concept or by this logic, we can understand there is something more. So when I want to do certain activity, if that activity, my intelligence knows that this is not a correct activity, then my intelligence knows this. Okay, this is not a correct activity. This should not be done. But above the soul, above the intelligence, the soul is there, which gives the empowerment of intelligence to act in a proper direction. And how this empowerment comes? From the super soul. So the super soul, as the word cha means, the super soul knows all the bodies. Super soul, it's not that in every body there is a separate super soul. No, it's the same Shirodakshai Vishnu expanding into all the bodies. So it's a one becoming many. So the super soul knows all the bodies, not only present, past, and future also. The super soul goes with the soul everywhere to guide. And so there are two knowers, like Srila Prabhupada very elaborately gives very in Srila Prabhupada's purport. If we see, it's very simplified language. Srila Prabhupada explains all the concepts. If we read the purport, we become so happy to understand this concept. Oh, yeah, there is one body, there is one field of activity, and in that there are two knowers of the body. One is the individual, who I am. But above me is somebody, that is the super soul, and super soul is present in all the bodies. So there was one lecture I was hearing, that how we understand this super soul, how it acts. So Srila Prabhupada, when he used to preach in his time in the Western countries, his preaching was very bold. Bold means in terms of, like, there were so many people coming, all the foreigners, and in that Srila Prabhupada will go on the stage and he will do very bold preaching. So he used to say to the people who have come to listen to him, that you are doing wrong, or you don't have any culture, or you are foolish, you don't understand what is to be done, who is God, you don't have any knowledge. So he used to say directly to all the people who have come to listen to him. So that also requires a very big heart and courage to speak like this in front of people in a foreign country, that you don't know anything, and what is your culture? There is no culture. This culture is useless, and what you are following is useless. He used to say like this. So in one lecture I heard why Srila Prabhupada was so courageous in his preaching, and he was so convinced in the preaching. So he knew, Srila Prabhupada knew, that Srila Prabhupada had genuine compassion for all the living entities, that he wanted everybody to understand the real position and understand the who we are and what we are supposed to do in this life. So he was very compassionate and very honest in his intentions. Uh, and so when the people who used to hear, they they after some time they used to think, yes, correct, I am not clever, or I'm doing something wrong, I should correct myself. So how this was happening, the people when they come to the lecture, they have very different concepts, but when they go out of the lecture in 30-40 minutes, they have changed people. So why this was happening? One Maharaj told that because Srila Prabhupada's intentions very pure and very um, compassionate, that the super soul used to help Prabhupada. So though even if I don't want to listen Srila Prabhupada's sentences, but my super soul will guide the soul that you have to hear this person, what he is talking. And then the soul used to experience the real feeling and purity of love and care that Srila Prabhupada used to see. So just by looking at Srila Prabhupada and hearing from him, the people used to get change. So this is the connection of the super soul. The super soul guides the soul that you hear this person. It is good for you. And at that point, the mind and intelligence, though they may try to disturb you, still the soul wants to hear. So the person will hear. So this was told by Maharaj, that this is why the people of Western countries used to come to Srila Prabhupada, and they were changing so fast because of pure heart of Srila Prabhupada, and the soul and super soul used to help him. So if we really, we can also experience in our life like mother and kids, mother and son, or mother and daughter relationship. Uh, there also, mother understands what has happened to son. Maybe sometimes father or other relatives, they don't understand, but mother immediately understand what's the problem, what's happening. So this is the connection of the super soul. Like the connection is heart to heart connection. It's not mind to mind connection, and that's how the communication happens, right? So mother knows what is happening to the child. So that super soul, which is the connecting connection between all these, is the Kshetragya, and he's present in every bodies. And so I may know my body, but super soul knows all the bodies. So there are two nodes, Srila Prabhupada explains very nicely. One is individual soul and one is the super soul. And super soul is the uh, soul has to serve the super soul because he is the supreme soul. Mm. And that's why the super soul also, we say, is an expansion of Krishna, or it's Krishna himself, but he is Rishikesh because the super soul can control the senses of anyone through the soul and through the mind and intelligence. So his name is also Rishikesh. So uh, the concept of Kshetra and Kshetragya, we can actually experience in our life based on the inclination to the spiritual activities, or inclination to the uh, logical thinking. Every person has different way of thinking, and they will use their senses differently based on the past karma, and the super soul helps that person in that way, what you should do, what you should not do. He tries to fulfill the desires. So we can experience this when we see the world around us and how we act in particular situation. We act automatically. In many times we automatically act. We don't have control on our tongue. We don't have control on our head, or we lose our control. So that is automatic reaction. But if we know, if we understand that, okay, I'm not this body, I'm something different. I know this body, then I should know what I'm going to do in different situations. So by this, actually, we can experience this Kshetra and Kshetrajna concept. And it's not concept, actually, it's the reality. And Prabhu Krishna says, one who knows this and understands this, that person has the knowledge, or that is the knowledge. So, as we go forward in this series of chapters till 17, we'll get to know the Gyan Yoga part and Sankhya Yoga part, and how these Gyan yogis, they try to differentiate the soul and the body. So this chapter is the start of that. So in this verse, actually, Krishna is explaining that there are two nodes in the body who are called Kshetragya. One is the individual soul, another is the super soul, and super soul is present in the all the bodies, not in the one body. So I hope this concept is clear to everyone. Can read the purport again. It's very, very clear purport by Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to add anything? Okay. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much, Ullas Prabhu, for reading today. So from tomorrow, we may try this. Like we can read the purport. Somebody can read the purport and others here. It's not necessary that I read the purport. So let's take turns, and one by one we will read the purports. Okay, I think it's okay for everyone. So okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.